The Diamond League Final. Our last race before the World Championships has just passed with a strong set of races. We saw Yaron Nuguse and Josh Hoey's bids for World Championship qualification and yet another big upset in the men's 5000 meter. We will start off with the men's 1500, a race Nuguse had to win in order to qualify for Tokyo. The field was strong as always, with Daniel Koch and Niels Laros also returning after the trio faced each other in Brussels, which saw Laros streak away from the field in a dominant victory. Although the pacer was set for the world lead, no one was really interested in going at that speed after the first lap. The world leader himself, Azzedine Habs, took the front with Nuguse following. Laros settled in the middle of the pack and Koch moved into second, actually cutting up Nuguse to take his position. Habs took them through at a reasonable but not blistering pace, similar to what he tried in the Rabat Diamond League, and was likely planning to make an extended bid for home in the last lap. As they hit the bell, the Frenchman was still leading, with Koch, Nuguse and Laros right there with him. The Kenyan took the lead at 250 with Laros tracking the move. It's deja vu from Brussels. And sure enough, despite Daniel Koch's best efforts to push Laros out, the Dutchman was simply too good and opened up another huge gap on the field to win with a 3:29.2. Of course, that unfortunately means Nuguse will not be competing in the Tokyo World Championships and will be able to rest after what has been a super busy season for him. And that is the general narrative I have seen surrounding Nuguse. He just did a bit too much this year. Multiple record attempts indoors, 3 doubles in Grand Slam track and a slew of Diamond Leagues in the mid and late season. In fairness, he normally has an active race schedule, but the combination of that extra race or two and the fact that this season has been very long seems to have taken its toll. He's a trooper, but fading that badly in the last 200 shows that his form is just not there right now. As a 3:43 miler and 3:27 1500 guy, this pace should have been cruise control for him going into the World Champs. But let's address the elephant in the room, Niels Laros. When he won in Eugene and people were praising him, I said we needed to wait and not get on the hype train. A 3:45.9 mile is good, but it's nothing crazy. When he won a double gold in the under 23s, I said his 800 was impressive, but nothing the others couldn't do. When he won in Brussels, I said others like Jonah Koch have run fast the last hundreds. But at some point, I've got to swallow my pride and get on the Laros hype train. I did it later than most, I regret my delay, but better now than never. He is not just a medal contender, he is a gold medal favourite, and yes, I am finally willing to admit it. Personal best, national record, 12.5 second finishing speed again in the last 100, and it was a 3:29 low race where he frankly looks comfortable. Despite being a Laros doubter, when I saw this snapshot of the race, I knew exactly what would happen next. He just looked so comfortable, and we know Koch can't close nearly as fast as the 20-year-old, so by this point, the result was inevitable. Honestly, the only person I see being put ahead of him for the gold is Cole Hocker. And that in itself is debatable. Hocker has not raced since USA, so we can't gauge his fitness recently, but he has been performing better in every race since last year, and we know he peaked super aggressively for the World Champs. He has similar finishing speed to Laros, and unlike the Dutchman, has proven he can hang in a 3:27 race, though I currently don't think Worlds will be that fast. One thing I don't like about Hocker for this showdown is his positioning, as he tends to switch off in the key moments and lets dangerous players pass him with 200 to go. This has been something I've criticised him regularly for since the early Grand Slam days. By contrast, Laros does well in this regard. It's not just that he's quicker than the others, he also puts himself in the position to take advantage of it as well. Josh Kerr is another big name in the gold medal conversation, but he thrives when someone takes the race out hard and it becomes a battle of attrition decided by a final kick. With Nuguse out and Jakob looking uncertain, he may have to take the lead early like he did in the pre-classic last year, as he probably won't have that 12-second finishing speed that the others do. Maybe Habs will lead a 3:30 pace, which would make it easier for Kerr, but he would need to strike out early in order to take the sting out of Laros' kick. Even then, I'm not sure he can do it. As for the others, I mentioned earlier that Jonah Koch finished in a 12.49 for USA's, but that was a single race a full second slower than Laros went today, and Jonah Koch's final 200 was slower overall. The American is one of the many dark horse contenders going into Tokyo, but Laros has done everything he has except more often and faster, so I don't see any reason to pick him over the Dutchman. Daniel Koch was a medal favourite for me until 2 races ago. You can tell by the way he was running today as well that he feels super competitive with Laros. I've noticed he generally runs pretty aggressively as well. He cut up Nuguse today, cut up Abel Kipsang in Brussels, and as much as I enjoy watching him race, I do think he needs to be more careful with his moves. He looked devastated after Brussels, and his aura has been diminished by Laros beating him twice and exposing his lack of a kick. In the right race, I think Daniel Koch can medal, but like Kerr, he is reliant on a fast race to really thrive. He is not a natural frontrunner and lacks top-end speed, but even in a low 3:28 race, I don't see him having much, if anything, on Laros, unless he peaks hard for Tokyo. If I had to say one thing that might change things for Laros, it's how he will handle the rounds. The same thing applies, arguably to a greater extent, to Daniel Koch, because the depth of the 1500 is so strong this year that we might see a 3:30 race for the semi-finals, and that might impact the younger guys more than a veteran like Josh Kerr. Might though, because Laros' recent wins in 3:29 lows has been pretty comfortable, so you'd assume he can recover well. Next up, we have the men's 800 meters, which had the usual Avengers assembled for the event. Like the 15, the main storyline to watch out for was to see if Josh Hoy can qualify for the World Championships with a win in this race. He has missed out on the spot several years in a row now, and after a stellar season which included becoming World Indoor Champion, running a 3:29 for 1500, and lowering his 800 PB by almost 5 seconds in a year, it really felt like now or never going into this final. Hoy had taken a win with a 1:42 high time in Lausanne, despite the heavy rain. But with Wanyonyi looking strong, and this win being somewhat influenced by the weather, the American was very much an underdog going into this race. As always, Wanyonyi went out hard with Arup and Bergen tracking him. Hoy, interestingly, placed himself near the end of the pack. The Kenyan led through the bell in a 49.5 with Hoy still far off the front. He opens up a gap around 300 to go, but the pack closes in on him in the last 150. Bergen and Arup are on the shoulder of Wanyonyi, but he is just able to hold out for the win in a 1:42.37. Yet another brave win by Wanyonyi, who maintains his gold medal favourite position going into Tokyo, and of course this means that Hoy will not be competing in the World Champs. He actually faded pretty badly towards the end, finishing dead last. Like Ngus, it's been a great but towering season for him, so I'm not surprised by the result. I initially thought he was being reserved and smart by holding back, but it's possible he realised that it just wasn't his day early on. Interestingly, Hopper also finished 7th in this race after a dead last performance in Lausanne, which might indicate some broader issues going on in his camp. Back to Wanyonyi, he did seem to overestimate his fitness here, opening too large of a gap down the back straight. But one of his strengths is that he holds a final reserve for that last 50 meters. Time and again, even when others are closing hard on his position, he manages his energy well and is able to rally in the second half of the home straight. Though I do still think he pushes the first lap too fast overall. There is a 3-second differential between his splits, which can't be the most efficient way to run the 800. It's also nice to see Arup and Bergen looking strong. Arup had another change of tactics in this race, as instead of making his usual big move down the back straight, which has not worked well for him, he seemed to try and just follow Bergen and hope to move past them in the final 50. Although that didn't happen today, it was one of the Canadian's better performances, and he didn't fade like some of his other runs this season. We finish up with the men's 3000 meters, where we got to see the headline showdown between Grant Fisher and Andreas Almgren, with the likes of Biniam Mahari and George Mills also competing. And whilst there was no direct qualifying drama, if Grant Fisher won the final, he would earn a wildcard entry to the 5000 meters, which means the USA would be able to send their 4th man from the trials in Cooper Tier. As a reminder, Andreas Almgren ran a 12:44 5000 meter European record in front of a home crowd in the Stockholm Diamond League, a race in which he bravely led the last 2000 meters. He had to pull out of his most recent race in Monaco due to cramping, but he has since said that he recovered well. The Swede has excellent range with a 3:32 1500 PB set in 2023 and a 3000 meter PB of 7:31 he achieved a few weeks ago to win the race comfortably. Grant Fisher of course has the indoor world record in the distance with a time of 7:22.91, where he outkicked Cole Hocker of all people to take the win. His outdoor season has so far been consistent, though he hasn't really had the same success he did indoors. Nonetheless, his raw times in the 3000 meter made him my personal pick for this race. Once again, we saw a super aggressive pace for the Wavelights of 7:22.5, which the athletes sat off early of course. They maintained a decent pace at the start, but slowed down significantly around 2000 meters. In the final 2 laps, Mills took advantage of his lead and began widening the pace up nicely, whilst the main players positioned themselves for the final 400. With 2:50 to go, Almgren makes his move trying to overtake Mills and placing himself in front of Fisher, who just seemed to let the Swede take the prime position. Mills holds the curb with Almgren right on his shoulder. Fisher swings out further trying to kick. The Brit fades badly with Almgren striding for home and Fisher and Mahari following. But out of nowhere, France's Jimmy Gressier comes through the middle and just dips past Fisher and Almgren, who finished in a razor close 2nd and 3rd place respectively. But let's replay the last 200 meters to see exactly what happened there. We can see that Gressier was with the main players with 200 to go and followed Fisher's big move on the outside. He got quite lucky because Fisher was actually pushed by Mahari outwards, which opened up the gap in the home straight for Gressier to swing past. Now the angle isn't great, but I don't know if this push by Mahari was actually legal. It's fine to check your opponent if they're drifting into you, but this looked more like Mahari was trying to give himself a positional advantage rather than stopping Fisher from cutting him up. I'd personally be a bit annoyed if I was the American. It is true that he shouldn't have let Almgren pass him on the outside, but he did outdip the Swede, and Gressier can't have been on people's minds going into this. The Frenchman was also pretty lucky to get that middle space. Once again though, Fisher's kick has shown itself to be good, but not great. He closed well, especially since I thought Almgren had it come the home straight, but Fisher's kick isn't so good that he can afford tactical errors, especially with the likes of Jakob potentially lining up. As for Gressier, it was still a great win by the Frenchman, and that closing speed will serve him well in Tokyo. Although this is being viewed as a lone upset, his season has been pretty good, and with a decently tactical race, we could see him snag a medal. Having a good PB is not as important in the 5k as with other events, given the way it's run. It would surprise me if he medalled, but it's not out of the question. We should remember that Mo Farah's personal best was only 12:53, pretty slow given his championship success. Gracia's 12.7 in the last 100 shows he has that speed in the home straight. As for Almgren, he will of course be another main player to watch out for. He has the strength and of course solid closing speed, going neck and neck with Fischer there, and I think he did pretty much everything right in this race. He just wasn't meant to be. He had positioned himself well, and trying to front run and burn everyone out would just allow Fischer to sit and kick on him. The problem that all of these guys are going to face though is that even an injured Jakob is just so good, I don't think they will have the speed necessary in the likely event of a low 13-minute race. I'll be giving detailed predictions of these events in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. Finally, there is a short but big update I want to mention on the Grand Slam track saga, which is that Michael Johnson lied. We know a key investor withdrew after the Kingston Slam, and MJ claimed that they had cited global economic concerns and Trump's tariffs as the reason for not investing. But according to this article from The Athletic, the investor actually saw the low attendance in Kingston and cited this, as well as previous concerns with the business model, as to why they did not want to invest. Tariffs had nothing to do with it. But just as you thought it couldn't get worse, GST keeps on digging. The Athletic further revealed that the athletes were kept in the dark about the financial situation until June. They were falsely told that there was a delay in the Kingston payments due to drugs testing, when the reality is they just didn't have the money. The reason this is so significant is that it turns Michael Johnson from being a grossly incompetent businessman to being downright fraudulent, and that means lawsuits. But don't worry, GST will still be back in 2026. The situation is just getting worse and worse. But thank you very much for watching the video, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy training.